Hey, everybody, welcome back to the A Show. I am your host, April Hunter, and today I have a guest co host, Nik Havert.
Hi,
Welcome,
everybody.
welcome. We don't have music because we're kind of reconfiguring everything, and we're under construction as we are currently saying. So, did you miss us? Did you miss us? Are we populating everybody? Are we populating people in tonight? So I forgot to retweet. I should have done that. So we probably all forgot. We're off our game right now. Hey, Eva,
Good.
I see you there. Hello, hello. Oh, yes, I didn't feel like doing my hair, so I borrowed hair. So anyway, Nik is gracing us with his presence once again. And while we populate, we will tell you stories. So
Mhm.
Nik was down here, was it last weekend?
Yeah, I know. It's all right.
Right? Like a world has disappeared since that. Like it's changed so
Yes,
much. And
yes, yeah. Because time isn't linear. Yeah, time's not
it
linear. So
really
yeah,
isn't these days. So
no.
yeah, Nik was down here just a week ago, and hey, Chuck, welcome, welcome. And yeah, we had a lot of interesting conversations, and we were supposed to have this show on Tuesday night, but Colin wasn't feeling super well, and we held off, and he agreed to come back on tonight. So here we are, and hopefully we can have that conversation that we were talking about having. So.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I'm
It's okay.
completely,
There's only a couple people in here anyway right
I'm
now. We're waiting.
completely
I
game
just
for that.
realized that
Yes.
I forgot to retweet earlier. So there we go. Thank you guys for doing that. We're going live. There we are. Retweet. Just did it. So yes, last weekend I ended up with a hey Alexa, how are you doing? B Gates. I ended up with a puppy. I had house
Yeah.
guests, a house full of people, a puppy, a broken air conditioning unit, and a broken dryer all at the same
hmm
time. How I didn't lose my shit. I'm so
It,
proud of
it
myself.
was impressive. Yes.
I did not lose my shit.
Yeah.
So I don't
The
know. I don't know how that happens.
the closest I think I saw you come to that was when I started your coffee for you one morning and did not know that there was a set pattern. And the look you gave me was like, I was
You're
for
right.
for a brief moment I thought, okay, she's possibly gonna like chest chop me right any second now and knock me across this kitchen because I've interrupted the pattern.
You're
I,
right.
or
You're right. You're
I
right.
started I started it too soon. Really, is what I did. I didn't really interrupt it. I just started it earlier than normal.
You will not touch the coffee.
That was the
I
story.
came out of my bedroom and I was like, why?
Yeah.
Why do I smell coffee when I have a
Uh
house
huh.
full of tea drinkers? What the fuck is going on here? So
Yeah.
I came out and they're standing around the coffee pot. I have a perk pot, and I make exactly enough for. I do it the night before. I make exactly enough that I'm going to use. So I measure out the cup, and I'm eating this stuff. And hello, Fred. Hi, Winona. And yeah, I make exactly
Yeah.
enough, and they're standing around waiting for it to perk. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, Mom wanted coffee.
Yeah,
I'm
oh
like,
my God.
not my
I make
coffee.
I make enough for one person. They're like, oh, I can make
Right?
you another. And
I'm like,
then like
I will make you a cappuccino. Don't touch
yeah,
my coffee.
yes, and she loved it. By the way, she thought it
Did
was
she?
great. Yeah, oh
Yeah.
yeah, and she was just and because she had seen your cappuccino maker and didn't know what it was. I'm like, that's an espresso machine or something, and like
Yeah.
so she was fascinated by it. And then when you actually used it, it's like, wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, I got that as a gift one year for my birthday. I had it on my Amazon wish list for years. And finally, like the year I really needed it, I got it. I was like, so it's a treat. And hi, Steve. Welcome, welcome. And I have to say, I also got this as a gift recently. I think it adds to the show very well. Everybody was thinking it. I just
Oh
said
yeah, yeah, yeah. Heck
it.
yeah.
Thank you, Chuck. So cheers. But yes, I managed to not lose my shit with a house full of people, a broken air conditioning unit,
Yeah.
I had to do a total replacement, a broken dryer, a child, a
hmm
puppy.
Yep.
What else happened?
Your back was a little goofy.
Oh yeah, I
You're,
messed up my back.
yeah,
Yeah,
you're doing a lot of yoga to help stretch that out. Yeah.
yeah. It's because the it's because I had to pick up packs. I had to deadlift him while he was down because he couldn't
hmm
make the walk back.
Oh,
Yeah.
and your water softener ran out of salt.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. It
Yes.
was one of those. It was one of those.
Yeah.
Anything that can happen did happen kind of weekends. And
Yep.
wow. Proud of myself. Thanks.
Yeah.
No, you guys
You-
were really a lot of help too. So yes, I ended up with a puppy, and yeah, that's a whole story right there.
Oh, sure.
Somebody rehomed their corgi to me, and they drove it down from Augusta, Georgia, and now I have a puppy that I didn't want and I don't need and I can't afford. Just when I was getting used to not having responsibility, and the foster dog's not really responsibility because I can give him to a foster when I go
Sure.
away. But yes, and no, I'm not permanently blonde. I just didn't feel like doing my hair, so I just stuck this on. So I got lazy. So Nik is a detective, and which I always forget because I met him at Comic Cons, and he's been on before, and he writes comics. So I always think of him as a writer, and then I forget that he is actually in the law enforcement business.
Yeah, I have another, another job that's,
Yes.
a little
Yeah.
more,
Yeah.
a little sexier than a comic book writer or writer in general, but
So I was telling him when he's driving around down here, I'm like, okay, so when you drive around, here's the road rules. You need to know this. And then it dawned on me like hours later, I'm like, oh, wait a second. He knows how to drive. He enforces this for a living. So I'm like,
sure.
duh. So
Yeah.
But if you have any CSI questions or any kind of detective questions, feel free to ask because he will answer them. So if you have your get your true crime questions going. Oh, Corgo. Hey, look, I look all bimbo-y. You like it? So I wanted to be a bombshell. So yes, thank you for sending bits. Hey, Allie, how are you doing? So yes, if you have any CSI questions, detective act questions, definitely ask. So we're going to cover loss and mourning and how to do it properly, since a lot of people are going through some type of loss or mourning collectively. I feel like we're going through a change. Like everyone is going through a change right now, and some people are kind of going with it, and other people's are digging their heels in and resisting. It's making it really, really difficult on, I feel like, on them and everybody around them. So if some people are willing to ride the wave and other people are getting smacked in the face, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So, but I feel like no matter what, we're all having to deal with these waves. So
sure.
being as though you have, we had this discussion while Nik was here about getting on the train. So what would you feel like approaching first?
Oh boy. So do you mean like going with like the grief part of the show or the CSI part of the show?
The CSI part of the show, because Eva asked, do you ever work on cold cases?
Yes, Eva, I do. In fact, there's one that I can't discuss fully that I have been working on. I know.
Which
April knows.
I already asked for the film rights to this one. I know, so I know
Right,
a little
yeah,
bit.
April already knows most of it. But I can't discuss it at length because the case is still being investigated and hasn't been adjudicated yet. But yes, I'm currently working a cold case from the year 2000, involving a death that was ruled undetermined at the time. And it's one of those things that, in the town I'm in is a fairly small town, and a lot of people still remember this incident. So working on cases like that is always a challenge because you're coming in as a new investigator. You have to take everything that's there, and sometimes there's not much. In this case, the amount of photographs was not large. Some of the photographs, the way they were, weren't the best quality. There are issues with, well, like one thing I can tell you that's about like the crime scene itself, where it happened, is no longer exists. It was leveled in a tornado in 2007, so you can't go back to the original crime scene and look at things. So things like that, but you have to then go in with fresh eyes, so to speak. And the first thing that I did was reconstruct the timeline to look for just possible discrepancies, just odd things, which I did find a lot of odd things. And then you build from there. And you always reach out to other investigators because, the more eyes on it, the better sometimes. And I've reached out to investigators in other agencies, the County Homicide Unit, Indiana State Police, and other places. I've other CSI's advice, just told them about these things. And it's always good because you'll get a lot of different perspective and things that, questions that you wouldn't even think to ask. I even got some of those from forensic pathologists as well. So yes, I do work cold cases.
And am I allowed to say that when a person has been cremated instead of buried, it makes it even more complicated?
That is true. Yes.
Yes.
Because now you can't do an exhumation for a second autopsy if you want one.
Right.
That just isn't a thing. You can't do it. So, it happened in this case. And yeah, that sometimes things like that happen. You don't have a body you can work with, and you don't have a scene you can go back to.
So
do I have it?
Oh, go ahead.
I'll say someone. Go ahead.
Oh, I had a question. So shows like the First 48, some of these procedural shows that you see, how accurate are they to portray some of what the steps that you go through when you first when like one of these first cases comes across your desk or something like that?
First 48 is fairly accurate because they're actually getting with real investigators and real cases and discussing their case method. Some of them are and how it relates to our department, our small town. Obviously, we don't have, like, someone asked, do you have a team? The closest that we have to a team is there's me, one other CSI, and another detective. There is the county I work in. They have a full homicide team that works with the prosecutor's office. And that's all they do is investigate suspicious deaths or unattended deaths. But yeah, shows like First 48 are fairly accurate because, again, they're basically just showing the process of their investigation. You start getting into wacky land when you get into shows like CSI Miami and NCIS and stuff like that, where you've got CSIs going into a building with a SWAT team. That's not happening ever. Because you let the SWAT guys go clear that building, and then you go in and clean it up and put everything back together that they just destroyed. No, CSIs aren't going in with SWAT, that's for sure. There's so many other fun things like that when I watch those shows, I'm just laughing the entire time. But yeah, First 48, there's some others along that same line. And I've met some investigators at crime scene conferences who have had cases they've worked turned into shows like on First 48 and other shows like that, these documentary shows. And they admit, like, yeah, they actually did a really good job because they worked with us, because they wanted how they process the case from beginning to end.
Okay.
That's really interesting. Yeah, that's kind of cool to see that they would talk to I know, like, Law and Order, they kind of rip from the headlines with some of their stories that they write and things like that. But it's kind of interesting to see that, like, First 48, they really are, like, kind of have like a liaison on set probably, or they cooperate with something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's huge. If you can have someone like that, like, there are a lot of times I'll watch shows and think, like, I need to get a hold of these producers and just offer to be their technical advisor, because it's like, it's so, a lot of times it's stuff that's so simple that they overlook or don't even think about, like how, like, one of the biggest ones is too many people in a crime scene. That's a massive, like, error where you just think all these cops and EMS and all these other people, like, in the crime scene, like, who should not be there. People eating, drinking, smoking in crime scenes. That drives me crazy. Victims still in crime scenes within view of like the dead person's, like, you have the dead person's relative or wife or whatever sitting there while the husband's body is like 6 feet away, and she's just staring at it crying. I'm like, no, they need to get out of there. Just little things like that just drive me bonkers. And there are so many others. But yeah, the easiest one to spot is way too many people in a crime scene, because most officers and EMS and all that, like, they know, like, especially if you've got a good group like I do, like, they know, like, dude, don't go in there, because if you go in, there's a chance you're going to get subpoenaed and you're going to have to stand in court because you were there, you were in the scene, you potentially left DNA at the scene or shoe tread or your fingerprints or whatever. And you were there, you saw it, so you're probably going to get subpoenaed because now you were an eyewitness because you walked in, you saw where the body was, you saw the broken glass, whatever it is. You're going to have to at least be in court because you might have to testify. And so most officers are like, I ain't going in there because I don't want to go to court. I don't want to sit on the stand. Like,
paperwork.
It's more paperwork. And I always tell the officers, like, you can just look at my photos later. I'm going to take a ton of photos. You want to see all the gory stuff? You can see it. Here, look at my photographs. Most people don't want to go into a scene.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you said something about a consult, and I remember when we went through university, I went for film writing, and they said, please spend the money and get, speak to people who know what they're talking about, or do the research, because try and make it as realistic as possible. And one of the things that I really appreciated about Glow on Netflix is they use Chavo Guerrero as their consult.
Oh, wow. I did not know that. That's cool.
Because I was watching it, and while you may or may not like the show, the things that are true to the wrestling business stood out if you are in the wrestling business. And I was like, that's accurate. That's accurate. Nice. Oh, wow. That's really accurate. It's this shithole motel. You know what I mean? Like they kept it real. I was like, somebody close to the business must have been on the show. And then I actually looked it up. I was sitting there on Wiki. I'm like, this wasn't done by some Hollywood executive. Like, this was somebody in the business. And I was like, oh, Chavo. Okay. Yeah. No wonder.
Nice.
So yeah, I would think for all those CSI shows, they would have to have, a slew of detectives to speak with on what are we doing right? What are we not doing right?
Oh yeah. Some of them do. It just, I think sometimes they alter that for dramatic effect. Like, well, we have to have at least these 4 characters in the scene because they're all going to be talking when they, you wouldn't have all of them in the scene. And there's also other stuff like, never enough photographs, or, here's another big one. People moving stuff before they photograph it. That drives me crazy. like, oh, here's a syringe left by the victim. They pick it up, look at it, put it back down, take a photo.
It's Hollywood. Sorry. You're a writer. You know this is how it works.
Exactly.
It's the hero's journey. We must pick it up.
Yep. Exactly.
You have a couple other questions here. And by the way, hey Speedway, hey Wolf, hey Doug, hey everyone. Thank you for coming in a little bit late. We appreciate it. Winona says, have you worked any well-known or famous cases? And Fred asked, how fast has technology changed? What are the new technologies you work with? Or do you prefer old-fashioned detective work? So. Oh
boy. Famous cases. Well, all right. The closest one I can think to a famous case, and I can't remember if I talked about this last time I was here, was the infamous Victoria's Secret case.
No.
Have I not told you about this,
Wait.
April?
I can't
believe I'm all right. So
I really appreciated your the drug one with the legal marijuana places. That story to me was fascinating. Like how difficult it is to have a dispensary.
Yeah. So this is
but I want to hear the Victoria's Secret one. Go ahead.
Well, the marijuana one is like a little shorter, so I'll start with that.
Okay.
So what April's talking about is this did not happen in my jurisdiction or the town I work in, but some of our officers are on a SWAT team that was involved in the follow-up to this, and that was a marijuana dispensary in Michigan was burglarized, and the suspects went in, stole the product, and stole the cash, because a lot of these places will have a lot of cash on hand, because since marijuana is still illegal federally, they cannot use credit cards a lot of times to make the transaction, so everything is a cash transaction. So on the weekends, a lot of these places will have a lot of money on hand. So these 2 guys went in, stole the product, stole the money, went to bring it back to Indiana, where marijuana is still legal in all forms, and
still illegal, right?
Yeah, still illegal.
Okay.
Yeah. So the plan, of course, is you bring the marijuana back, sell it in Indiana, and you're going to make even more money on top of the money you've already stolen. Well, that led to a pursuit, and the passenger bailed out and he gave up the driver, what have you. SWAT team, including some of our officers who work on a county SWAT team, they went because this guy barricaded himself in his house, but thankfully came out without, any shots fired or issues, or they didn't have to put gas or anything. They convinced him to come out.
See, that's the difference
Well,
between marijuana and like meth, right there.
Oh, sometimes yes. So then
Peace, man.
the sting, like the extra, like kind of like twist, if you will, is since they stole this stuff and brought it across state lines, that made it federal. Now you're going into federal crime because you're crossing state lines with this stuff. So FBI shows up to investigate this. So the guy's arrested and they confiscate the product and the money they stole, because now it's a federal crime. That all becomes evidence. So the dispensary loses all of that. The product's gone, the money's gone, because again, it's a federal crime. That's all now evidence in a federal case. So you can't have any of that back. So this dispensary is just completely out of luck.
In addition to taking the heat with the credit card companies and the alarm companies.
Yes. Oh, for sure.
Oh, man, that's so rough.
Yes. So the Victoria's Secret case is somewhat famous because this did make some national news here and there. I mean, it wasn't like on, Dateline or, NBC Nightly News or anything, but I did see it mentioned in multiple like little news outlets here and there and various articles here and there. So that involved how I came to find out about that was I got a call out of the blue from this guy who works in loss prevention for the L Corporation, which is the parent company of Victoria's Secret and a bunch of other companies like Bath and Body Works and some other stuff. And they had discovered that some counterfeit vouchers, coupon vouchers for Victoria's Secret were used at a store in Wisconsin. And so this guy did a bunch of great detective work on his own. He pulled the transactions. He pulled video of the transactions because the suspect used their Victoria's Angels gift card during the transactions, plus credit cards, matched the video footage up with Facebook images, found out, yep, that's the same lady, and that she lived here in this town. And he called and said, look, she's doing this and she's getting hundreds of dollars worth of product for pennies on the dollar, sometimes nothing. And he had tracked down of the transactions he had found by the time he called me. It was well over, I think, $11,000 worth of product that she had gained using these fake coupons.
Oh wow! So she had 15 bras, huh?
Oh yeah. So yes, exactly. And so when he called me, he said, "Look, I don't know if she is manufacturing these things or if she's buying them thinking they're legitimate." So what we did is we went down to her house, and luckily her trash can was outside. And I looked in her trash can, and right there was a Victoria's Secret bag. And so that led to a search warrant and some other stuff. We found some other stuff that led to a search warrant. And a very long story short, we served this warrant on the house. And by the time, and I called this guy from L Corporation and said, I want you here because after we serve this warrant, we're going to be looking for product and we might walk by stuff that we don't know belongs to the company. So once we clear the house, we want you to come through. So got in, and the lady said everything's in the basement. And there were two of our officers who went down to the basement to clear the house, and they came upstairs just looking shocked. And they said, dude, it's like a store down there. So we went down, and sure enough, she had an entire store, if you will, down in her basement. Because what she would do, she and her daughter, they would circle around to various Victoria's Secret places in the Midwest, buy the product for, again, nothing if not pennies on the dollar, come back and then resell it on a Facebook sales group and then make the money. And then they'd ship it out. So they had stuff ready to ship. They had other stuff that they were going to ship. And, everything was everything from clothes to soap and what have you. And they, I think in the year that they did this, because they were about a year and a half into it. And I think, if I remember right, she told us she cleared about 45 grand doing this. And of course, none of that's reported on taxes. And so and by the time we got done, it was, he had figured out that it was well over $100,000 worth of product that they had obtained. And we actually took a large amount of it out of the house and got it restocked into a store up in the South Bend, Mishawaka area where I'm from. But that's probably the most famous case I've worked, just because everybody jumped on like, oh, Victoria's Secret thieves. Then they just love that.
Can I offer an alternative perspective?
Sure, of course.
I could possibly say cheers to the entrepreneurial spirit, to
Sure.
two ladies who were taking advantage of the system and the fact that, that probably the clothing was made in a sweatshop where the people were paid pennies on the dollar. Then they mark it up to some ridiculous cost for a freaking bra. And then they were just giving them back a little taste of their own. So
Yeah, that is one way to look at it. Yes.
As long as you're not ripping off mom and pop shops, hey.
True.
I'm just saying.
Somebody asked about technology.
Yes. How is it changing? Do you like the old school detective?
It has changed quite a bit. It changes all the time. That's one of the cool things about CSI work, is that the field is constantly growing and adapting. And there's stuff. Oh, good heavens! There are just using crime scene photography as an example. Now, when I first started, you had some departments were still using Polaroids. Some departments were still using 35 millimeter film. I came in right when digital photography was really starting to become the hot thing, and still is the majority crime scene photography. But now there are, 360 cameras you put on a tripod, and they'll take photographs of the entire scene and then recreate it in 3D. There are imagers that can do that inside and out. Like I helped work a shooting once where they took photographs, 3D image photographs inside and outside of this home, and then the computer program would essentially stitch these images together into one moving image that you could fly through almost like a drone. And you could take the camera view from above this house and then drop it through the roof of the house and then go through the entire house and see everything, in like in a 3D perspective. Oh yeah, it was incredible. There's the advances in DNA processing alone are huge. Whereas, there's definitely a DNA backlog, but it's from when I started doing this, it's so much faster to get DNA results back now. I worked with a graduate student at University of Notre Dame. She since has her doctorate, but she did her thesis on she just basically came up with a new way to hasten the processing of sexual assault kits, because there's such a huge backlog in the country.
So many of them just sitting there.
Thankfully, a lot of departments have really jumped on this. I think in departments small and large, and really up this process. But one of the longest parts of that process of a kit is extracting the DNA samples from all the swabs and everything else. And that normally takes, a couple hours easily. That's always the longest part of the process. She figured out a way to do it in 20 minutes.
Really?
Which is stunning. She figured out a way to cut that process down, and hopefully that's going to get implemented across the country. There are, again, getting back to photography, different ways of UV light, different light spectrums that you can cast onto a scene to pull out different details in a scene. That's something that's really come to the forefront. Unfortunately, our department can't afford a lot of that equipment, but it's amazing to see.
Yeah.
But in terms of there's definitely some old school stuff that still works really well, like classic fingerprinting, the dust lifts from shoe tread, things like that work really well, or even just the simple stuff of tracking down. Well, now it's tracking down bank records, cell phone records, things like that, which at its heart really is just a lot of grunt work. It's a lot of forms you have to fill out and subpoenas you have to write, and then reviewing this stuff once you get it and putting pieces together. I'm working a fraud case right now that involves a lot of that. So yeah, it's still, and it's at the end, you're still doing a lot of legwork with it.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm used to my co-host. I'm used to Aaron.
Okay.
Nick, sorry. Yeah, I'll just call you Aaron. No, Nick said something about hitting a spot with one of the cold cases. And I said to him, I'm like, well, have you tried your amateur detectives? And he's like, what? I'm like, yeah, your amateur internet detectives. Have you tried that yet? I mean, They're out there, right? You guys are out
Right.
there.
The tricky part of that, and actually we kind of ran into something along these lines, where we had our department recently had some people like bring us some information about a guy here in town. And it was one of those things where we're like, okay, we can take the information, but we really can't do much with it yet, because if we do, like, we run the risk of the average citizen, so to speak, becoming our agent, and that that gets in this huge like gray area in court, and like that's a huge potential mess. And that's the thing, like, yes, you could reach out to amateur detectives, but then it becomes, well, eventually you're going to have an attorney say, well, who are these people? Where do they live? How do I find them? I need all their contact information because I'm going to need them subpoenaed into court for this case. And so all these amateur detectives potentially are going to get subpoenaed from across the country, maybe like, hey, you have to be in this town, this small Indiana town, for a homicide case because you found this, and you're going to get grilled on the stand. So that's another, like, that could happen.
I guess who's paying for that?
Exactly. Well, and that's the thing. Yes. So now, like, the prosecutor's office is going to pay for that, or the defense attorney is going to pay for that. And then plus they're going to, potentially lose time off work or whatever else. And then if they don't comply with the subpoena, now they're in trouble for that. And yeah, it can be a huge mess.
Now, Nick, the question was about the technology and stuff like that, and you work a lot of cold cases and things like that. Have you ever had a case where new technology was made and you were like stumped by it, and then this new technology or something came out and you were able to apply that to a cold case to be able to solve it? Like, and one of the examples I have in mind is it was on TV as a guy, he killed his wife and he buried her in the basement.
Okay.
And he got away with it until seismic technology basically came out, and they brought one of those rovers and they ran it down in his basement, and they found the carcass like image as they ran it down through the basement and everything. So has there ever been anything like that in your career where you've this new piece of technology kind of like put it over for you to be able to solve the crime?
Oh boy, I don't think anything that dramatic.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
That's like a what do you call it? Who's that author that wrote that story about the guy? It was Russian author, right? He talked about. Wasn't it? Oh no! Never mind. Sorry.
Okay.
it was the wife who killed her husband and then cooked him up and served him to the police force because he was a cop. Served him to the police force who came looking for him.
Wow.
Is that Dostoevsky?
It might be. That's also. I'm pretty sure that was also an episode of Alfred Hitchcock Presents. Although
really?
maybe he adapted that story.
Could have, yeah.
I think it was the James and the Giant Peach guy.
Roald
Dahl.
Roald Dahl.
Yeah, he did short stories. I think it was that. So, but that sounds like some of the stuff he would, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. No, I can't think of anything that new that's really come up. I mean, apart from, again, the rapid nature now of DNA returns. That's definitely been a game changer for us. I've had multiple cases that I've been able to wrap up just from DNA evidence, burglaries, car thefts, some assaults, things like that. But again, where the results have come back pretty quick compared to what they used to come back to.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, it used to be DNA. It'd probably take you weeks to months.
Oh yeah,
some of that stuff back
months
back
for
in the
sure.
day.
Yep.
We do have some other questions, unless you have something, April.
No, I just see some more people. Hey, Cam, thank you. It's a wig, but hey, I'm getting wiggy with it. Hey, player. Yeah, there's Jeffrey Dahmer. Someone wrote Jeffrey Dahmer.
I've seen photos from the Jeffrey Dahmer crime scene.
Oh, here's an interesting one.
Wow,
here.
Doug G. What kind of Amish crime do you have?
Mostly.
Oh my God, he's going to answer. You actually have some.
I'll say, and some.
I was waiting for you to go. Nothing.
Oh no!
Some guy stole a horse and carriage.
I saw somebody else asking like what's the difference, like, crime where you are versus crime in South Bend, Indiana, which is the closest big town to where I live. South Bend definitely has more crime than us. it's mostly, I'd say that like most towns, the majority of their crime is theft, and some armed robberies, things like that. But
Wait.
it's definitely more crime there for sure. But
Okay.
in terms of Amish crime, normally most of the time that we're dealing with the Amish community, they're the victims, and it's mostly things like theft, fraud, um, some vehicle accidents sometimes. And a quick sidebar to that: it is not uncommon if there are no injuries, if in a car versus buggy accident, buggy comes out better because those things are built to last through like hard winters and go down horrible roads. And
Really?
those things are solidly constructed a lot of times. I've seen cars just mangled and a buggy that just needs a new wheel. I've seen it.
Wow.
Because yeah. But most of the time, in terms of like crime with the Amish, about the most we really deal with is when the kids go on Rumspring, because a lot of times the girls, and we don't really deal with the girls too much. It's more the guys, because a lot of the guys, they buy fast cars that they're not used to driving, or big trucks they're not used to driving. They party hard, so a lot of times we're catching them with drunk driving, illegal parties.
Wait, you got to explain what this is to people who aren't from like Pennsylvania and Indiana.
So
this is their free pass, right?
Yes, essentially, and for the most part, so basically, Rumspring is when they, if you're in the Amish faith, you essentially, most of the time it's a year, but it can really last as long as you want, or as long as your family kind of allows, or whatever. But it's a year, and you basically just get a year to sow your wild oats and decide if you want to stay in the faith. So again, you can go out and experience English culture and, go travel or whatever, or just party all the time. So, and easily, I would say 95% go back and stay in the community easily. Because
why wouldn't they? This is not that great.
Yeah, no electric.
We don't even
bill,
like our families.
They're not worried about gas prices. They're not.
No.
They love it. So, but yes, and yeah, someone mentioned Mennonites. Yes, we have a large Mennonite community here too, which is different. Where they typically have more technology that they're using, and they different interactions with the English community. But most of the time, yeah, the Amish crime is again kids driving drunk, driving too fast. Sometimes you'll have some that'll get addicted to drugs, and that maybe sometimes doing drugs, dealing drugs. That does happen. But for the most part, yeah, it's mostly driving offenses and illegal partying, illegal drinking, stuff like that.
Okay.
And yes, they do have the best baked goods. Yes.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Amazing.
That's interesting.
There's a place. There's a locally famous, local, in the county. There's a bakery that now has a couple of chains here and there called Rise and Roll, and they make these cinnamon sugar donuts, and especially these little donut holes that, no joke, are known around the county as Amish crack, because they are so addictive, and everybody everyone calls them that. And apart from the bakery itself, but they openly oh yeah, that's what everybody calls them. And they're amazing, but holy cow, I can eat maybe one of them and it feels like my head's going to explode from a sugar rush. They're just all incredible. I much prefer their cheese danishes, which are not the sugar bomb that these little donut holes are. But yeah, they are really good.
Yeah, I've never met a Danish I didn't like, honestly.
Oh, so good. Yeah.
So if there aren't any other questions there, I don't know if there are. Are there any other CSI questions?
Not really anything other than let's see, we had some from do you think new CSIs rely too much on the new technology?
No, not so much. Because again, a lot of it gets down to basic detective work and observation skills and figuring out what can and can't happen. Because a lot of times CSI work is also figuring out that a crime didn't occur, or that things didn't happen the way the victim thinks happened. You know, I've had victims tell me like, well, he had to come in through this window. No, this window's covered in spider webs. Sorry. You know, or you know, or he, you know, this had like I've even one time told I told one victim who said, well, because if I remember right, a PlayStation and some other stuff was stolen from his house, and like, well, they must have come in during the night while my kids were asleep on this fold-out couch bed and stolen it and walked out the door. And I said, so they came in through this window that's directly above the fold-out couch where your kids are sleeping, and it was below 50 degrees last night, and they somehow didn't wake up and see this guy stealing because it was cold, and the guy comes over and like climbs over them, and I was like, this isn't a ninja. This is like, I'm telling you, this was not what you think happened. But yeah, or sometimes proving, like I worked a burglary case once where someone came into the house and stole a bunch of money.
But what if it is a ninja?
If it is, that's amazing. I would so be into that. I worked a burglary case where someone came in and stole some money out of a house, and they knew exactly where the money was. They didn't like ransack this house.
That was somebody the family knew.
Precisely, and that's what we explained. Like, look, you know
somebody you were close to,
right? We just don't know who it is yet. So sometimes but they didn't want to believe that. Like, no, that couldn't be.
I'm not even a detective, and I know that shit.
Right. So yeah, sometimes you're proving that a crime didn't occur, or at least occur the way they want to believe it happened.
Okay.
Yeah, my parents' house is kind of a target for thieves because we have like our driveway goes around back behind the house, and then you can't really see from the street and everything.
Sure.
And so periodically bikes will go missing, lawnmowers will go missing, and things like that. Well, we had someone try to break into the house, and they took the glass with their bare hands and stacked it up very nicely for us, Nick.
Wow.
Then, then my dad called the cops, and they found this nicely stacked pile of glass with fingerprints and all that thing for the cop to find. And he told my dad that glass holds fingerprints really, really well compared to a lot of other surfaces.
Yes, it does. Absolutely. Yeah. And I've found plenty of fingerprints and blood on glass. Oh yeah.
So you had an OCD thief, and you thank him or her?
Yeah.
By calling the cops on them, even though they stacked up your glass nicely?
Yeah.
They still took the lawnmower and the leaf blower.
Oh, okay. Whatever. Okay.
Just walked right up the street with it. So we do have a few more questions that have rolled in from Wolf. Have you ever done a sexual predator case or anything like that in your towns?
Yes, I have worked some, sexual misconduct, sexual assault cases. There's, if I've worked any recently. Actually, yes, I have. There's one I've worked recently. I can't go into too many details because that's going up for, for possibly trial. But yeah, that involved DNA found at the scene, and on the victim, and some hinky stuff that happened there, some drug use and some things like that. But yeah, I've worked another one that involved where I had to get a search warrant to take photos of someone's genitals, the suspect's genitals. I had to do that just because that's what you got to do sometimes. So yeah, I have worked cases like that.
Okay.
No, that makes sense because they had the kids describing Michael Jackson's junk in the Michael Jackson case, so that makes a lot of sense.
You went right there. Someone said about the.
He's probably gonna need your information when he has to take this class to ask you some questions, Nick. He's gonna need a tutor for his cyber forensics class that he's finishing.
That is, man, like you will never be out of work if you want to get into cyber forensics. I'm telling you that, like. That's a field that's just going to do nothing but continually grow and change. You'll never be out of work.
Huh.
Actually, the other CSI who works with me, that's his specialty, is cell phone forensics, computer forensics. And yeah, that guy, you don't want my buddy to look through your phone because you'll find everything.
Cyber forensics. And usually they're women, I would think, would be very good at cyber forensics.
I could see that, yeah.
Because we can find that shit. Give us your phone. We'll find it. Just give me your phone. Yep. So, player. Nice try. Somebody said something about the catalytic converter being stolen out of the car.
Yeah, that's huge right
That
now.
is a big thing in California when I was out
Yeah,
there. Like,
it is
especially
everywhere.
with, is it? Especially with
Oh yeah.
Prius and the cars that are, what is going on with that?
It's because of the material in them. Like a lot of them have like gold or platinum parts, so they're stripping them to then resell the precious metals.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
so yeah, that's a huge issue everywhere right now. Yeah,
Wow.
not just California.
You're damn right.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and so so there would feasibly be money, a lot of money involved for the person who figures out how to make a catalytic converter theft proof.
Yes. Oh, for sure.
So you find
Yeah.
the need and then you create the solution. So there you
hmm
go, guys. Figure that shit out, make your millions. Actually,
Yeah.
billions probably on that
Oh,
one.
for sure. Yeah.
So
Any car manufacturer will pay high money for something like that.
Yeah.
let's figure it out. Let's group think,
I,
group think,
I
group think.
I was gonna say it's kind of a travesty that the girl that helped make the DNA test faster isn't richer. You know, like we've got this Theranos lady who's going to jail for frauding all her investors with the little prick and the blood test thing.
Oh,
This lady should be like one of the richest women in the world if she's doing
sure.
stuff like this and selling it to all the police
Mhm.
precincts and able to do
Oh, yeah.
something like this. Like why isn't her name out there? I don't
I don't
doesn't
know
make any
either.
sense.
Yeah.
Because they only we like bad news. We remember people with bad news or big
Right.
asses. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
It's
how
true.
the world is right now. It's like Don't Look Up. Did you see that
Mhm.
movie, Don't Look Up?
Oh, not yet. No.
Oh, good Lord. It mimics the society today. Like all this stuff is going on. Nobody's paying attention. They're just talking about celebrity romances breaking up. Like they're so easily distracted.
Sure.
Yeah, it's quite entertaining.
Hmm.
So when you were here, we got into some interesting discussions about Alan Watts
Mhm.
and doing nothing and the wonderfulness of nothingness
Mhm.
and how to handle um, how to handle loss and mourning, which I
Mhm.
feel like I said, I feel like a lot of people are dealing with that right now. And by the way, hello everybody in here. Thank you for coming in and thank you for coming back and thank you for being here. I missed you guys too. It was weird last week not having a show. I was like, I'm lost. What do I do? It's Tuesday night. I don't have. I need the schedule. This puts structure in my life.
Have that outlet for you.
I didn't know what
Mhm.
day it was for the rest of the week. It kind of fucked me up. I'm like, I don't know where I am right now. So, but thank you for being part of the community there. But yeah, we had these very interesting discussions, and
Mhm.
um, well, I'll let you kind of. How did we get on this subject? I don't know how much you want to go into there.
Well, there's so many avenues we could take with this.
Yes.
It's difficult to choose where to start. Um,
I don't know if
I,
you want to tell. I don't know how much of that story you want to tell, or if you just want to talk in general.
well, I know I don't mind talking about it at all. So, like, I'm just trying to like figure out where to start.
Okay.
Well, I'm trying to figure like how you and I, the conversation started with you and I when I was there. Um,
I think you said something about the silence being deafening.
oh yeah, okay. So, all right. So, I have no idea how many people are here by now, but so to basically to give all of you like the baseline, so to speak. So let's see, is it today's the first? So it's a little over. So my wife of 25 years died a little over 4 months ago from a bilateral pulmonary embolism. So it came out of the blue, not unlike a car crash. That's the way I'd kind of described it. Nothing you can do about it. Just it's one of those things that there it is. So in the process of grief and figuring out this new reality, one of the things that I noticed, of course, is the silence and the different sounds of the house and things like that. And there was one day or just overwhelmed me. I was standing in my kitchen just screaming this damn silence in the house. I can't stand it. Just to make some sort of noise. I'm much better with that now, with that silence. I've learned to kind of like embrace it and be present with it. And I noticed that actually while I was having dinner just a couple nights ago, I was sitting at the table eating my, chicken and loaded baked potato and realizing like, oh, I don't have any music going right now. The dog's asleep, the cat's asleep somewhere, and it's just quiet in the house. This is actually kind of nice. So luckily I've come around to that. So with that led to this conversation that I had about, again, grief and moving on. And moving on is really kind of like a weird term with it, where it's not really moving on. It's just it's more moving forward. Because moving on seems to indicate like, oh, you just put this behind you and you forget about it forever. And you never really do. And grief can be from anything from, like, again, losing a spouse to, a job, a move, a pet, a possession that was really truly dear to you. It could be like anything, a relationship, a car that you sold, that you had like really good memories of that car, and now, but you need a new car, so you sell the old car. You're like, wow, I really miss that car. It could be anything. And definitely there'll be some things that weigh on you more than others. So that got us talking about like this silence and this nothingness, and how that led to this Alan Watts discussion that April and I had about many topics. But one among them is this concept of nothingness and how it frightens a lot of us.
Mm-hmm.
But as Watts would say, like, well, why should it? Like, what, why should it frighten you? Why does it frighten you? That's something you need to ask yourself. And Watts famously said that, like, people worry about, when we die, like everything about us, our physical bodies, like all of our achievements, everything we own, all of our accomplishments, all that is just going to gone into nothingness. But again, what is that? And how, if you explore, like, what is this nothingness? The nothingness is actually everything. When you consider how much empty space there is in the universe, between atoms even. And he talks about how people talk about the nothingness of space, like, oh, out in the universe, outside the Earth, the atmosphere is like, there's just all this nothingness where it just goes on for infinity. But that nothingness encompasses everything, encompasses everyone, you, I, everybody here, encompasses, the good men and the bad men, as he would say, all the plants and the trees and everything else, this glass of water and it's all within this nothingness. And so that's nothing to be afraid of, because we're all part of that. And this nothingness becomes like everything. And so it's nothing really to be afraid of. So we move on, we move forward with that. Again, to be present with it is the key for me. Presence has been, and mindfulness has been the key for me for all of this.
I'd always said, feel your feelings. A lot of us try and bury ourselves in work or in, I don't know, liquor or anything really, except for having to feel what it is that we're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like if you feel your feelings, you won't deal with hello, cat. You won't deal with as much crap later, and it won't resurface later as not ideal things. And you pointed out something, and you said you have to get on the train.
Yes.
Which I had never heard that analogy before. And do you want to describe that?
Sure. So this wasn't something I came up with. This is something a friend of mine came up with, and she told me about it. And she and her therapist came up with this concept. And I'm not sure if my friend came up with it more or her therapist did, but my friend told me about it. And my friend was also a friend with my wife, and my friend has been through. She's had a lot of losses in the last really 2 years. She's lost friends, relatives, some to illness, some to suicide, some to, accident, I think. So she's been through a lot. And so she described grief as this train in a tunnel, and how when you're grieving, you're on this train that goes into this tunnel, but you don't know how long the tunnel is. You have no idea. But all you know is that while you're in this tunnel, it's dark. It's sometimes scary. It can be frightening. It's sometimes loud. Sometimes it's dead quiet. And you don't know how long you're going to be in this. But you do know eventually there you will come out of this tunnel. There is light down there. You might not be able to see it right away, but you will come out of it. So you have to ride this train through this tunnel to get through it, and eventually you're going to come out of it. Or the other two options are you don't get on the train. You actually climb over or around the mountain to get to the other side of this tunnel, and now it takes you twice, if not longer, to get to the other side of this tunnel and process this grief. Or option three, the worst one, you just don't get on the train and go into the tunnel at all. You just stay on that side of the mountain and you never go through. And now you're trapped forever. You can't not process because you won't let yourself do it. So you have to get on this train and power through it. And like you said, you need to feel those feelings. You've earned that grief. And as a friend of mine told me within the first week when I was, adjusting to my new reality, and he said, it's supposed to hurt. If it doesn't hurt, something is wrong.
That's a good one. I like that.
Other ways I've heard it described as like, the more it hurts, that's a stronger reflection of the love that was there. Where, it's supposed to hurt.
I've heard that for breakups too.
Yeah. So don't feel bad about the hurting, and you have to be present with it, because if you're not, you're going to miss out on things you can learn, and you're going to miss out on being able to purge this stuff from you, because it's so easy to fall into anger and rage, and which is all perfectly normal. I mean, but it's staying in that, that rage or that despair. That is what is gonna, that's what dooms you. Like you lock yourself away in this past. Oh boy, now we're getting into it. You're locking yourself away into this past that no longer exists and truly never really existed. This is one of my favorite things to talk about with Watts and Zen. So yes, like one of Watts's big things was, I can hear Simba purring. That's awesome. I could just, did anyone else hear that?
Do you know why the cats purr, allegedly?
I've heard multiple theories. I've heard everything from because they're happy, of course, that's the obvious one, to they're asking you for something. Like I've heard like what's called the solicitation purr, where like they're trying to get you to feed them or pay attention to them. But what's the theory you heard?
They purr to calm you down, to comfort you.
Nice.
So because their mothers purred when they fed, they associate purring with being calmed down.
Oh wow!
So it's funny that you're talking about all this and he's purring for you.
No,
so
that's good. That's wonderful.
So go on.
So yes, so Watts talks about this a lot, where, and I can't remember the exact quote, but one of his most famous quotes is like, I've come to realize that the past and the future basically don't exist because they can only exist in the present. I'm willing to bet, because again, the present is all we have and all we ever will have and ever have had, because the present is all that ever really exists. I'm willing, I tell people this every now and then, like, I'm willing to bet at no point today, if not in the last, week, month, year, or maybe even ever, anyone who is listening to this has said today, wow, I'm living in the future right now. Or, wow, I'm living in the past right now.
Some people live in the past.
They do, or they think they do.
Yeah.
And so, like, because the past, or like when all that stuff, the past, yes, the past happened. Yes, World War I and the building of the Great Wall of China, that happened. But when it happened, it was in the now. When it happened, it was in the present moment. It wasn't in this magical place called the past back when they built the Great Wall of China. Wow, we're in the past right now, building this wall. No, to them, that was the present moment.
So
when the future gets here, it's going to be the present. April and I talked about like this magical future that you think is coming. It never really shows up because it's already here.
Yeah.
It's like it's already here. You just have to embrace it and accept it, and pull it out. Because again, like if you keep waiting and waiting for this magical, the golden goodie, sometimes as Alan Watts calls it, if you keep waiting for this thing to arrive, it's probably never going to show up because it's right there waiting for you in the present moment all the time. Or when it does get here, well, now it's the now. I had this discussion with my brother-in-law recently, and because he's going through some issues, and I was telling him, like, hey man, because he knows he's got to make a change in his life. And I told him, like, you and I've had this conversation 3 times. And again, like this magic future that you keep waiting for, this change is never going to show up because it's already been here for you the entire time. And it's the same with, you have to be present in that grief because it's happening right now in this moment. And if you try to, like other people have already come, if you try to deny it, it's just going to come back on you double, and if not more.
So I think that I do improv, and it's all about living in the moment.
Sure.
Like right there on stage, living in the moment, that type of stuff. So that's really what it seems like you're saying is that a lot of us, we live in the past, we try to live in the future, but a lot of us don't live in the now
Mm-hmm.
and really take into effect what we have around us. Um like as you were saying this, one of my favorite quotes, and I'm gonna butcher it because I don't know the quote exactly, but Jim Valvano, I live in North Carolina, so I'm down the road from NC State. One of my favorite coaches of all time, kind of thing. He said the one thing that you need to do to have a fulfilled day, there's three things actually. You got to laugh, you got to think, and you got to cry. If you think about that, if you laugh and you think and you cry, you've had a pretty full day emotionally,
Sure.
right?
Good Lord, I had a
You've
fulfilled day by noon.
you've had time to reflect and other things like that, and
Yeah.
and it goes into a lot of what you're saying is a lot of times when we lose someone, it's and well, not even before you lose them, it's while they might be on their deathbed in the hospital or so,
Certainly.
you want to keep them on that life support and keep them here when probably the best thing for them, and it's selfish for you to not want to do this, but the best thing for them is to probably just let them go, because they're probably suffering and they're probably go on to something that's better for them. Because why would you want your lasting memory of your mom, your dad, your wife, your best friend, them laying in a hospital bed,
Right.
suffering where they can't really interact with you? And this comes from personal experience where my grandmother, she had a stroke, and I would always come in there. I look a lot like my grandfather, and they'd be like, "Oh, who does he look like? Who does he look like?" And then there was one day, like, I really saw the pain and the hurt in her eyes
Mm.
because that's my grandmother and she misses her grandfather. And you can see
Sure.
that's all she was thinking about was wanting to be with him and that type of thing. And I think a month or two later, she moved on or whatnot and got to go enjoy her time with him. But I think as I said in the quote, if you do those three things, you'll have a really lasting day and fulfill your life, and then you can fulfill other people's lives in that sense.
Certainly.
And I saw a player said he lost his dad in January to a pulmonary embolism also, and I'm sorry to hear that. I know a lot
Me
of
too.
it's I lost my dad to a plane crash. He worked for the BLM, which is the forest fires that happened in California. He was one of the firefighters. He was the lead plane, and he died very suddenly at work when he hit a mountain. And then I lost my mom to lung cancer, and that was dragged out for a long time. You met her. And I play this over and over in my head all the time. If I don't know why I do this because I'm a glutton for punishment, but which would be the better way to go?
Mm.
And I always think the way my dad went was the better way to go because it was just hard and fast. There was no suffering, and I remember him as being vibrant, whereas my mom's last memories, like what you said, were on oxygen, and she was struggling, and I always think a quick death is a good death, a warrior death,
Sure.
Ideal. But I used to joke around and say all the time, just give me a nice heart attack. Give me a proper wrestler death.
There you go.
But but I know a lot of people have been dealing with these things. It's been a very rough couple of years, and we're all going through so much changes and so much loss. And how do you go on and function during the day to get things done?
Sure.
When you just want to be a pile of goo, and when you don't feel like eating, you don't do anything. Like, I mean, for me, I know I would eventually like force myself to go out because the hardest part was getting out the front door.
Oh, sure.
And I knew I'd feel better if I did something or went somewhere, or just got out of the house. I don't know.
For me, it was, and still is, mindfulness practice and presence. When in the first week, when things were hitting really hard, it was all I could do to, of course, get out of bed, try to eat something. But what I started to do was I would vocalize whatever I was doing to help me stay focused and present. And it would sometimes be, I'm getting out of bed. I'm feeding the dog. I'm feeding the cat. And there were times when it was so hard, it was basically me saying, I am turning on this lamp because that is all I can do right now. If I can turn on this lamp, then next thing is like, I'm sitting on the couch. I am crying. Like boom, to be completely present with whatever was happening at the time. Because that was just one small step. It's, the classic, a path is made by laying one stone at a time. And so that's how I started, and I'm still doing. It's the simple things that you can then build from. And when I started to really focus on presence, and I did a lot of meditation and still do. One thing that really helped me was forcing myself to accept invitations that people sent me. And I started just accepting. I still am, for the most part, accepting pretty much every invitation I get. But that all started with a buddy of mine, good friend. That was week one, in fact, where he called me and said, "Hey, why don't you come on over and we'll watch the Notre Dame football game. You can hang out with me and the family, and we'll grill out, and you don't have to bring anything, you don't have to do anything." And my wife worked at the University of Notre Dame, and I thought, I don't know if I can handle just seeing all the images of campus. I don't know. But eventually I thought, okay, and I'm sure I probably got like a cosmic nudge in the back of the head, like, honey, you should go. And so I was like, all right, called them up, went, and it was great. It was exactly what I needed. Like, check my brain at the door, watch the football game, eat some good food, hang out with my friend and watch his goofy kids drive him nuts. It was great. So after that, I started to accept practically every invitation I got. And it, like you said, it forced me to get out of the house. And that really started to, like, okay, I got to at least stick around and get this done. So that helped quite a bit. And then again, a lot of meditation, prayer, outreach from friends. And then again, for me, it always goes back to presence and
simple meals.
Yeah, simple meals. Yes,
make simple frozen meals.
Simple meals. And yeah, a lot of I've had some amazing meditations and visions and things like that since this has happened. Dreams. I've had some incredible things come to me that have really helped me, process what has happened. Reassured me a lot of things of what that she is fine. I would say she's in this place, as I call it, it's this place where light casts no shadow, and she's having a great time there. I actually had another dream about her this morning, and she was basically we were riding around in a limo, and she was like, "I'm having a great time." She's like, "This is a dream." She was telling, because it was so realistic for a moment. I thought, wait, is this reality and not this? Is this the real thing? Where you're still with me here? She's like, "Oh no, this is a dream. I know you wish this were real, but this is a dream.
You were lucid dreaming.
Yeah, this is a dream, but I'm having a great time. You'll be okay. And go have some fun. You'll be all right." And you and I talked about this. I told you this. There's another getting back to Watts thing, where how the universe manifests itself through us, and how if you his whole thing is I think one way some people call this his lecture of what if God got bored. And
I love this. Go.
So what this is basically how he says, I try to imagine that every night that you go to bed, you could you have the ability to dream every day of your entire lifespan. Let's just say 80 years, and every night you could dream every day, every day of your life. And it could be whatever you want. Like you can form, you can dream this, you can like lucid dream it, whatever, control your dreams. And you would dream every day of your life. Every night you went to bed. Of course, the first thing you do is every night you would experience every conceivable pleasure possible. You would have the most awesome dreams. Like, like every day of your life would be just incredible. You'd have, every, piece of chocolate you wanted as a kid, all the way to you're having sex with Victoria's Secret models every day, or whatever it is. You're traveling, you're a jet setter, billionaire, whatever. Like every day you would do this, until the point where, and eventually though, you would run out of, like, you would experience every conceivable pleasure. So they'd be like, okay, well, now what? I know tonight I'm gonna like throw in like a little challenge, like, I've got to cook dinner for so and so. And then he or she's got some weird dietary thing. And then that would be the new thing. And you dream that, and you get done. You go, oh wow, that was kind of cool. That was like a fun little challenge. I'll put another challenge in there, and eventually you'd start putting these little challenges in there. Then the challenges would get greater, where eventually you'd come around and you go, wow, like that was a close shave. I barely got out of that one. That was really cool and exciting and thrilling. I should do that again. And you'd have some other cool, exciting, thrilling thing you would do. And then the challenges would get like, you'd start mixing it up, and like, there'd be challenge mixed with pleasure and all that. And eventually what would happen is you would dream the life you are living right now. Because you would go through everything and you would dream the life you were living. So that's what we are doing. Like we are in this life that eventually, if we were gods, and in some ways we are, you would dream this, you would create this reality that you were in.
We were walking when he told me this, and I had to stop and think about it for a minute. Like my mind was so blown. And I was just like,
the other, I remember the other, because I've told.
I was like, really?
I've told a condensed version of this to people I've interviewed.
Like I dreamed that my air conditioning needed to be replaced. And
yes,
that was
you
my
would.
Challenge.
You absolutely would do that.
I'm sorry,
yes.
Nick, but fuck you.
Yeah, exactly.
Drink.
I feel like I've heard this theory
drink.
before, though, like that you can dream stuff like you eventually would create the life that you have now. Basically, is what you're saying.
That's
in some other
crazy.
scenario.
You absolutely would. Yeah, because you to see how you come out of it, and how you process it, and we absolutely would.
Huh.
Yes. I remember the other thing I told you that blew your mind. Another Watts quote is the one about if all you do is think all the time, all you think about are thoughts.
Yeah.
I remember that blew your mind too.
Yeah.
Yeah. If all you do is talk all the time, all you do is talk to make noise, and if all you do is think all the time, you only ever think about your thoughts.
Yeah.
So you have to try to calm your mind. That's the flat iron on the rough water.
You're trying to flat iron the ocean. All it does is stir up the water worse.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Winona said something. She said, when talking about loss and losing her family member, at first it almost makes you feel guilty for moving on without that person.
Certainly, yeah.
Survivor's guilt is a real thing.
It absolutely is.
I always felt like we owe it to those people to live, since they're not here to experience, that we have to do the best we can and almost live life for two, or live life for their share,
Sure. Oh yeah, that's totally a thing where like I called that like feeling bad for feeling good.
Yeah.
There are times when like you're where I feel like I'm doing okay, and then I realize like I'm not even 5 months into this. Should I be having good days already? I'm like, well, why wouldn't you? Again, my wife's come to me in dreams and meditations, basically saying like, yes, go do this, be happy. So like, yeah, why wouldn't you? If you have, and again, everyone processes grief differently. Sometimes takes longer than others, but yeah, it's the survivor's guilt. Absolutely, that is a thing. Where like even I was just talking with my mom today about this, and like how when she and I got back from your place, we were both emotional, because that was my first air travel without my wife, without Mandy, since she and I went to a music festival in Vegas back in August. Mm-hmm. And so I was seeing all these places we had been to when we last saw you together down there. Yeah. I was like, oh, this sucks. And then, and my mom's looking for places to retire down there. And she comes back and she just told me today, she's like, when I got back, I had a good cry, because all I could think about was I'm going to be moving down there, and I wish your dad could be with me to enjoy it. I'm like, yeah, I wish Mandy were here to enjoy me, you know, when we go retire together. But it's not the thing. It's not the case anymore. But I'm doing it, like you said, to honor her, and to, you know, that's part of the reason I'm doing it. Is, the best way was that the best way to honor the dead. That quote you sent me, or
the best way to honor the dead is not with grief, but with gratitude.
That's it. Yep. So,
yeah. So when you start feeling, I find that when I start feeling sad about, I've had a lot of loss in my life. It's like I always feel heavy. When I start feeling that way, I start thinking, thank you, thank you for the time that I had with this person. Thank you for this time that we were cracking up, or this trip that we went on, or thank you for the amount of time I had with my dog. Thank you for the opportunities that we had. So I start trying to flip it around instead of oh, fuck.
Sure.
I can't do this. And then I'm like, okay, thank you for the time that I had. It's made me, where I am. But there are days that I just don't feel like dealing with people at all.
Oh, sure.
I don't have it in me.
Yeah.
I don't. I get them more and more lately sometimes, where I don't return messages. I'm tired. There's so much, what's going on in this house with everything going on.
Right.
I'm exhausted sometimes, and just, it's hard. Well, grief is exhausting.
Oh, absolutely. That's one thing. That's one of the many things that people don't tell you ahead of grief, is one, how damn exhausting it can be. Just all, like, if nothing else, all the paperwork you have to deal with, and the phone calls, and all of that. The business of death. Yes, it's exhausting.
It's also profitable.
Sure. Oh, yeah. So yeah, no one tells you that. Yeah, grief can be exhausting. And no one tells you about all the simple things that you don't even think about that will suddenly affect you. Like for me, like one of the first ones was making dinner for the first time, and then so I made this nice kale and chicken sausage and potato hash, and I scooped some out, had some, went back in to the kitchen to get a second helping, and I stood there looking at the skillet, and I thought, all those leftovers are for you now. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a new thing. And like little things like that, or like, oh wow, it takes me twice as long to fill the trash can. And just odd, like little reminders of this loss that now becomes this new, like, you have to adapt to this. Like, okay, or how grocery shopping.
That's why that's why I have consistently fallen apart. I'm in the grocery store and I start to cry, because it's like you have this routine of what you pick up for people, or you pick up for your for your pets, your people, and then you get there and all of a sudden you go past those things, and it's like you realize, I'm not getting that anymore because they're not with me anymore.
Oh yeah.
And it's it's like, oh my God,
Yeah, that's how first time at the grocery store after Mandy died, I was almost running through the store thinking, I got to get out of here. I was clenching that cart so hard. I'm like, I've just got to get out of here. And oh yeah, for sure, that absolutely can happen. No one tells you that. Again, that's the things that no one really tells you.
Well, we're telling people.
Yeah, we're telling you now.
These are things that you need to know and be prepared for, to have it in the back of your head. And John Westcott said, we honor the ones we lost by giving the love they gave us back to the world. I like that.
Yes.
I'm sorry I missed that earlier, but yes, I like that a lot.
That is so true. There's a great, Thich Nhat Hanh has a great little lesson he gives about the candle. He calls like some people call it like the candle story, or the candle lecture, or the candle lesson, about how like, it's the Buddhist concept of like no birth, no death. Like no one ever truly dies, and no one is ever truly born, because again, energy can only be transformed, can never be destroyed. And how this so he always like draw, like I've seen him draw like a candle on like a whiteboard, and he talks about like the candle's lit, and eventually, of course, the candle burns all the way down, and then there's no more candle, but the heat, the light, and everything else that the candle set out is still out there in the universe. And so the candle is gone, but everything that candle created is still out there affecting everything. And
Mm.
so, and even then, like, that's the thing. It's like, so like the candle is burning and sending things out. And then of course, it's consuming oxygen in a fire, the fire is consuming, which is of course helping lower the candle. So the candle is like this reciprocal thing. And so that's how we all are. It's like everything that we do affects everything else, butterfly effect, if you want to call it that.
Mm-hmm.
And how, so that energy that we put out there, everyone we affect, everything, every piece of art we create or whatever it is, that's constantly out there affecting everything else. So you never really truly die, because again, you're the effect that you have on the universe it's constant. It just continues to ripple and ripple and ripple. And it's, and everything is still happening, around us all the time. And then we perceive it, which then of course manifests it into existence. That's the other quote I told you that blew your mind, was one of my favorites from Watts is, if there were no eyes, the sun would not be bright.
Mm.
So the universe manifests itself through us. That we, like this glass of water, like if I didn't, without my taste buds, this wouldn't taste like anything. Or like if, as you would say, like without soft skin, this would not be hard. Again, we manifest this. So yeah, it's amazing. We're like, I could talk about this for hours. I'll
I
just
know.
It's amazing that you said that, because now it's got me thinking about your candle metaphor. Because if you think, you said the light and the heat and everything that goes out, technically you can take the wax on the candelabra or whatever melted down and repurpose that, right? The only
Yes.
thing that you lose in the candle is the wick.
Yes.
And all you have to do is add another wick, and you've got a new candle to spread
Yep.
more light and to spread more heat. It's pretty fascinating metaphor there.
Sometimes the wax completely burns, depending. If it's an intentional candle, it does go away.
and the candle, the candle just sits and waits. The candle burns, and if you blow it out, it doesn't think like, oh no, like my existence is over. It just sits like, all right, I'll just hang out here, and then someone's going to light it again eventually. And it's eternally patient. It's like the it reminds me of I don't remember the philosopher's name, but he talks about like being like hearts like trees. You ever heard that quote? About how, like, if only our, I think he was an Indian mystic, but he basically said, like, if only our hearts could be like trees. He said, like, basically trees, they don't long for the birds to come and land in the branches. But when the birds come and land, the tree's like, oh, this is really nice. And when the birds leave, the tree's like, all right, that was cool. And then, okay, if the branch comes back again, the bird comes back in, this will be great. If not, hey, I'm still a tree. It's like, if our hearts were like, trees, like if we could just be like that, where like, you don't get really attached fully to things. Like, yes, it's nice to have them, or, people, things, whatever, but you don't become so attached to them that when they leave, you're like, oh, I can't exist anymore. A tree doesn't collapse, when the birds fly away. A tree just doesn't wither and die like, I miss the birds. The tree's like, that was cool. Again, I'll wait for the birds to come back. So yeah, we can have hearts like trees. I'll have to look that up. Because
Not that this has anything to do with that, but the redwoods, that are the biggest, strongest, tallest trees, most of them are on the West Coast.
Right.
They can't exist on their own. So underneath the ground, their roots network with other redwoods and thatch together. So on their own, they would fall over. So they build a we are one network underneath, and that's how the biggest, tallest trees survive. They have to be attached. Wow. Yeah,
it's pretty interesting. Yeah.
So
for sure.
So yeah, I think the thing
it was Lanya.
I
looked at it because I was going to drop me nuts. It was Lanya. So the quote is, just think of the trees. They let the birds perch and fly with no intention to call them when they come, and no longing for their return when they fly away. If people's hearts can be like the trees, they will not be off the way.
I like that.
There it is. Yes.
Yeah, I think the goal is to leave the world a better place than when you entered it. If you're able to do that.
Oh, for sure.
If you're able to do that, you're doing okay. So, And I know you had said actions conquer fear. I saw that, and I'll let you go because we're getting a little bit late. But you said something earlier today, or you posted something about actions conquering fear.
Yeah, that was a sticker I found in Mandy's office when I was cleaning out her office.
Okay.
But yeah, like, because fear. Okay.
Fear paralyzes.
Fear paralyzes, and it causes people to do stupid things, and they don't realize. And some people don't realize what their fear is, or that they are afraid, or they don't realize that fear is causing them to do X, Y, Z, because they don't look in, or they don't have any kind of self introspection, or they're afraid to look in, or they're afraid to admit, like, oh no, I'm doing this because I'm afraid, and they don't want to admit fear, which of course liberates you from it. But it's scary for people to do, and because it's easy to cling to illusion. It's very illusion is comfortable, and
we love our lies.
We do. We
love our
do.
lies.
And it's frightening to let go of them, but when you can, it's amazing. When you start to realize, like, oh, I've been clinging to this or that, or I'm afraid of this because of that. It's very liberating. And again, helps you stay present. I always get back to that. Again, it helps you stay in the present moment, which again is all there ever really is. I've told people that I've interviewed for crimes suspects, like, yeah, this is like, you and I are in this moment right now. Like, I've told people that, like, look, I know you did this. I'm just trying to figure out why you did this. And right now, this is just you and I talking. And this moment, like, everything has led to this moment. All of history has led to all three of us talking on this podcast right now. Like, if you really think about it, and we are doing this on a speck of light in infinite space. It's amazing. It's
I can't believe really. You don't do drugs. Holy shit.
No, it's divine. Really. Like, I mean, think about, every moment will never happen again. And so that means, like, every moment is a divine creation, which means everyone in this moment is a divine being, because, so everyone you meet is a divine being, because again, every moment is divine and never will be replicated again. You never can do it. And again, this moment is all exists. So we're all divine creatures.
Nick, you would be amazing on mushrooms.
Hey.
I'm kidding, but you're right. I was for people for people who have a hard time taking that action when they're paralyzed or moving forward, I learned this little trick, and it helps. When you're standing there and you're like, I need to get things done. I haven't done this. I should do this. You just go like this. 3, 2, 1, and then you do it. Just do a countdown. 3, 2, 1, and right then you do it. Whatever it is. Nice. Make the call, send the email, go get your clothes on, go to the gym, step outside, walk the dog, whatever it is that you have to do. 3, 2, 1, go. Launch.
I like that.
Yeah, I like that.
Give yourself a countdown.
We do. I think a lot of people have that issue, April, where they're so hesitant to want to start something new or do something. Mm-hmm. And I'll put it off tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. No, if you do it today, mm-hmm. you start that habit. You start doing it. Like I said, living in the moment. Mm-hmm. Is part of what we talked about. You have to kind of be there for today.
Yeah. We're on we are on a 24-hour cycle. There's no rule that says you have to wait till 7 a.m. tomorrow or Monday to start your diet, or after January to whatever. Fuck all that shit. Seriously, drink.
Yeah, really.
Every minute is a chance to move forward and start something over again. There are no rules about what time. If you find that it works for you at 2, 3, 4 in the morning to start something new, do it then. Mm-hmm. Who cares?
Yeah.
Because we're all equal in that we get 24 hours in a day. So it's what you do with those 24 hours that makes your life. Mm-hmm. So, or what you don't do with those 24 hours. So use all 24 of them. Don't let someone else's limitations or hours affect you. Mm-hmm. There's a reason stuff's open 24 hours. You want to go grocery shopping at 1:30 in the morning? Go grocery shopping at 1:30 in the morning. Get it done with. You don't have to do it tomorrow.
Sometimes that's the best time to do it.
It's 2 or 3 in the morning at Walmart. Yeah, and you've never lived. until you've gone to a Waffle House like 3 or 4 in the morning either.
Heck yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, we have taken up enough of your time. Thank you very much. And
You're welcome.
I appreciate you coming on
Thank
and
you,
giving
Nick.
us some of your wisdom.
Yeah.
So
Happy to do it. Yeah, sure. And then
Yeah,
next time we can talk about comics or weird music or whatever, or anything else. I mean, I'm fine.
I'll take you up on that. Take you on. Sorry, we only have the hour. Well, in the hour and a half in this case, but we're gonna do the pack flex there. There we go. Anybody can join me if you want.
I cannot. No,
She wins again. She's the
Yeah,
undisputed.
I can't even. Yeah. I got nothing.
Well, thanks everybody in the chat. Thank you for joining me on. I'm assuming there are some people on YouTube as well. Thank you for coming back this week. I will see you again next Tuesday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. You can see all of our shows on patreon.com/the A show. You'll get all of our content since the day we started over a year ago. And you can watch the replays of this for a week or something like that.
About 2 weeks. Yeah, I think
About 2
on
weeks.
Twitch, yeah.
Cool.
And we will. I'm trying to think about anything coming up. Nope, just this for right now. So we will see you. Thank you, Nick. Where can people find you? You have Weirdo-rama and everything else, right?
Gosh, yeah. So picklepress.net, and
Those are your comics, right?
Those are the comics. You can find me on Twitter at Nik Havert. My music blog is seventhlevelmusic.com, the number 7th levelmusic.com. My horror host show, if you want to see me with my face painted like a skull and hosting old weird movies, is weird-o-rama.com. And I'm also on YouTube. Yeah, I'm on YouTube. Like, you just look up Weirdo-rama. Yeah, there I am. That's me as Victor von Psychotron. And I'm on YouTube. Pretty much all my shows are on YouTube. So just look up Weirdo-rama or Victor von Psychotron on YouTube. The last thing I posted there was I hosted the trailer for A Shot in the Dark, one of the classic Blake Edwards, Peter Sellers comedies. So I'm on there. I'm on Facebook, Twitter. I'm at 7th Level Music, at Von Psychotron. So yeah, I'm all over the place.
You're the king of all media there.
Maybe.
And Colin, where can they find you?
Oh, you can find me on Twitter at Colin Wysong. You can find me on Facebook at Colin Wysong. And then tomorrow, tomorrow's Wednesday, 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can find me over at twitch.tv /ridiculously random pod for the Ridiculously Random podcast with my good friend Big Ray Hernandez, as we talk about anything and everything, and we do a top 5 list. And our top 5 list this week is going to be top 5 things that you could change in your past.
Oh, wow. I might be listening to that
anything. And if you want to get your emails into the show, we'll read the emails on the show. yourrandompod@gmail.com. Send us an email. April, we'll have to bring you on the show one night when you're not busy. I know you're doing play stuff. Just come check us out. 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time over at Twitch with myself and Big Ray Hernandez. And April, Nick, thank you again for coming on the show. It was fun last time you were here with the train stories and the two drunk buddies that both died the same way. And we've got more really, really cool Zen stuff tonight, which actually, April, I'm going to steal a little bit more time because, we talked about the minerals and stuff. So there was a random pop-up mineral shop that was down the street from my
crystal
house.
Shop.
Yeah, so I bought a couple of rocks and crystals and things. So I've got one of these, like, this is supposed to be obsidian here.
Did you? Nice.
Nice. And then let's see, the guy threw in a moonstone for me here.
Cool.
Very good.
And then I bought a giant amethyst tower here.
There's nothing wrong with the amethyst tower. Oh, that's awesome.
That is cool.
So I got this really cool amethyst tower here, and I got the sage. So there were like 2 different kinds of sages that they had so you can cleanse and power up everything. So we're gonna start.
You can also try Palo Santo sticks too.
Let's try that.
Amen to that.
Well, awesome. Definitely, Eva on here can tell you all about how to cleanse properly. She's kind of she's like, good choice, Colin. Yeah, I think she'd be right on that. Her and Lori are right on that. So yeah, we're big woo woos over here with the crystals and everything. And thank you to Chris for my for my crystal, my shungite
That's cool.
rock to absorb the electronics. I appreciate it. So I don't know if it works or not, but I like it, so I'll take it. I mean, you put the metal on your finger if you wear jewelry, and it turns your skin. It can turn your skin green or different colors. So why wouldn't crystals have an effect as well, a chemical effect? So we don't know. We don't know.
Cool.
Anyway, good luck with the cleansing, and thank you for your knowledge, Nick. And you guys can, of course, find me on Instagram, Real April Hunter, where they will not verify me, and and on Patreon, April Hunter. And I will see you on Twitter. Oh, Certified Wrestling Podcast. Aaron is not here. The last podcast was his final podcast with us, so he has gone on. He has stuff to do on Tuesday nights, so that's where he is. But you can still find him on Twitter at Aaron's Thoughts and on Instagram. So he's still around. He's just not on the show anymore. So we're rotating co-hosts now. So, well, thank you guys. I appreciate very much, and we will see you next week. Thank you.
Ciao, everybody.